Part 1.
You will hear a woman telephoning a travel agency for a hotel inquiry. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5.
Green Travel Agency, what can I do for you?
Hi, good morning. My family and I intend to go on a vacation to Vancouver, and could you please help us reserve a hotel?
Sure, with pleasure. First, I'll take some notes down of your personal details. May I have your full name, please?
Anna Hardy.
Hi, Anna. There is a hotel in Vancouver named Holiday Chilcotin, which is very popular with guests on vacation.
Chilcotin? Can you spell it?
Chilcotin. A local hotel.
Where is it? Is it in the downtown area? You see, my family prefers to stay in a quieter zone during vacation. Not too busy, you know.
No worries. Actually, it's 10 miles from the city centre, near a train station.
Oh, I think that's okay. I'm travelling with my husband. Is it expensive to stay in that hotel?
Well, in your case, I think a double room would suit you well. Normally, it's $210. If you can make a reservation in advance, you can pay $169 for a night.
That sounds pretty reasonable. I'd like to book for 5 nights from the 27th of June through to the 1st of July. Are there still rooms available?
Let me check. Yes, they have some vacant rooms. Would you like to book it now?
Wait, one more question. Are any meals included in the price?
Well, you need to pay separately for lunch and dinner, except the breakfast, which is provided from 7 to 9.
All right. Please book it for me. Is there anything we can do near the hotel?
Yeah, it only takes 10 minutes to walk to a science museum sponsored by the City Council.
Excellent. I think my husband will love it. Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Are there any outdoor activities to recommend to us? Because we don't want to stay in a hotel all day.
Oh, yes. If you like to go cycling, there is a shop near the hotel where you can rent a bike. Helmets are on sale, but you'll have to take your own boots.
That sounds great. I think I'll do that.
Also, it's a charming place for visitors who like to go mountain climbing.
Oh, awesome.
The hotel prepares 2 trips to a nearby mountain. One trip starts at 9 in the morning, and the other one is at 2 in the afternoon each day. You can just call reception to make a reservation, and it's free of charge. But please be careful of fires, which are not allowed. If you like, you can go fishing in the lakes. For camping, a tent can be borrowed for a rest from the driver.
Oh, I can't wait. It sounds like a lot of fun.
If you'd like some adventure, you can go hiking in the forest. Sometimes you can even see some black bears. Be careful.
Oh my God, I really do not like to take risks while travelling.
One last thing. There is a visit to an ancient gold mine every afternoon. If you're interested, just call reception.
I think we will do that. Thank you so much for your help.
You're more than welcome.
That is the end of Part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to Part 2.
Part 2.
When Ava arrives at the student centre, she watches a television report on the European country of Estonia. Before you listen, look at questions 11 to 15.
Good morning, viewers. Today on World in Focus, we take a look at the small but fascinating country of Estonia. Can you see it there, to the right of your screen? Located on the eastern shores of the Baltic Sea, west of Russia, and to the north of Latvia, Estonia is a mere 45,227 square kilometres in size, which is, let's say, 3/5 the size of Scotland. The country is divided into 15 counties, 207 rural municipalities, and only 47 towns. The official population is 1,462,130, made up mostly of native Estonians, 64.2%, followed by Russians, 28.7%, Ukrainians, 2.7%, and Belarusians, Finnish, and others 4.4%. The capital, Tallinn, in the northwest, as you can see, quite a beautiful city, has a population of just 420,470. We'll be back with a further look at this extraordinary nation. Stay tuned.
Next, look at the summary of Part 2 of the television report and questions 16 to 20.
Welcome back. Estonia is a rather flat country. The highest point is just 318 metres above sea level. It has over 1,500 islands and more than 1,400 lakes. The chief industries are the manufacture of agricultural machinery and electric motors. Chief crops, grain and vegetables. Okay, now, you're probably thinking, why don't we know more about Estonia? Well, it could be because the country only gained independence from Russia in 1991. Each year it celebrates its Independence Day on February the 24th. The Constitution guarantees fundamental human rights, and Estonia nowadays is, in fact, a democratic parliamentary republic. The currency is the Estonian kroon, worth 1/8 of a German mark, or about 4.5 pence. The official language is Estonian, but given that the nation shares a border with Russia, it's no surprise that a great many people speak Russian. And so for the weather in Tallinn today. Estonians enjoy a mild climate in summer and can expect partly cloudy skies and a top temperature of 61 degrees Fahrenheit, that is 16 degrees Celsius. Back to the news.
Moscow. Talks today between the Russian delegation and the Vice President of the United States appear to have been successful.
That is the end of Part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to Part 3.
Part 3.
Later that morning, Ava attends a special class for students who are non-native speakers. The tutor is interviewing an ex-student of the college. First, you have some time to look at the questions.
Today I have with me Anna Cherney, who was a student at this college, how long ago?
I was here 2 years ago now.
Anna was a student in this English class when she was at the college, and she is here to tell us about the many problems facing a non-native speaker in a tertiary institution. What have you been doing since you graduated, Anna?
I was quite lucky when I left the college because I got a job pretty quickly with the local council. I'm still with them.
Tell the class what course you took here at the college.
Yes, I originally wanted to work in advertising, but I found it was too hard because of my English. And so I changed my direction. And, well, I'm glad I did, because now I have a qualification in nutritional science. And that's how I managed to get a job with the council.
What exactly do you do with the council?
I work with the chief dietitian, making sure that the meals prepared for the elderly in the community are nutritionally balanced. The council provides food for those old people who can't get out of their flat or their house. It's a very demanding job, but I like it.
You deliver the food?
No, I spend most of my day in a laboratory at the council. But sometimes I talk to older people to find out if the food is tasty enough and, that they like it. I spend a lot of time in the kitchens too, making sure that the food is good quality.
What exactly were the problems when you first arrived at the college?
I was very shy, you know. I couldn't communicate with the students in my class because most of them were native speakers. My English was not very good. But I thought everything was okay until I got the result of my first examination. The tutor was worried why I was so quiet in class. I told her it was because I was afraid to ask a question. And anyway, she suggested that I talk to the school counsellor.
What advice did the counsellor give?
Well, she was very kind and understanding, and I realized that I was doing the wrong course. You have to be an extrovert, you know, outgoing. I think it's a personal thing with me. You had to give a lot of opinions, and I am shy. So she suggested I ask more questions in class. So I made it a rule to ask at least 1 or 2 questions every lesson.
So you swapped courses and began to talk more in class. Was there anything else that the counsellor suggested?
Yes, she said I shouldn't live with students from my own country. I should share a house with some English students, so I did. And my English improved much faster.
Are there any problems that you currently have with English?
Oh yes, I used to have problems with the technical vocabulary in my field. But you pick that up pretty quickly. Now it's mostly, I have difficulty trying to understand the colloquial language of the English. The way they express themselves is sometimes very strange.
I see. How do you increase your vocabulary, for instance?
I listen to the radio a lot. Interviews on radio, talkback programs, that sort of thing. I find that really helps me. It's better than just watching TV. And actually, I keep a journal of the expressions I hear. Some people collect stamps and I collect new words and English expressions.
Let's talk some more about your course at the college. Do you remember any study projects that you were involved in?
Let me see. Well, there was one study we made of the nutritional habits of English school children. We had to produce a questionnaire for a group of 20 kids, and we discovered that too many children either didn't have any breakfast at all, or else they ate foods for breakfast that were much too high in sugar. These are 2 major dietary problems.
Why?
It's complicated, But breakfast is an important meal because your metabolic rate, the rate at which the body burns up food, is faster the earlier you begin eating in the day. So, if you want to have lots of energy, eat a good, balanced breakfast. You need a higher metabolic rate, you see. Also, too much sugar in the diet can cause the blood sugar level to rise very quickly at first, and then drop too rapidly. For breakfast, this is bad because later you are more likely to feel sleepy and unable to concentrate. So, eat a good breakfast, you'll think better, concentrate better, and yes, you'll probably score better in your exams.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions.
One last question. What about your future? Have you any immediate plans?
Well, in the short term, I'll continue to work for the council and gain more experience there. I hope to get a position in a hospital, which would be much more challenging than my present job. After that, my long-term goal is, I have a dream to open my own business, an agency providing nutritional advice and giving consultations. Or I might have to go back to my own country instead and do what I can to improve the diet of my people at home.
I see. Now, does anyone have any questions for Anna? Yes, in the first row.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Part 4. You will hear a lecture about English language. You have 30 seconds to look at questions 31 to 40.
Those of you who were here last week will remember that we talked about the journey of the English language from its early Indo-European origins through to Old English, Middle English, and then to early and late modern English before it reached the form that it has today. Today, we will be continuing that theme by focusing on the future of the English language and all the places it might go from here. There are about 2.1 billion people around the world who can speak English. Out of these, only 400 million are native speakers, which means that 4 in 5 English speakers are non-natives. This is obviously quite an impressive number, considering that just 2 centuries ago, in 1801, there were only about 20 million speakers of English around the world, and languages like French and German were ahead of English in terms of how many people were using them. But what does it mean? What it means is that the future of the English language doesn't really depend on its native speakers, but on that massive number of non-native speakers learning it around the world. Has anyone heard the term pidgin before, or Creole? A pidgin is a simplified version of a language which acts as a bridge between two people who don't have a common language, allowing them to communicate with each other. While a Creole is a language that evolves from a pidgin, with the difference that it is fully formed with clear grammatical rules and vocabulary. There are currently dozens of Pidgin and Creole languages based on English around the world, for example, Nigerian Pidgin or Jamaican Patois. These languages are also known as Englishes. What's interesting about these Englishes is how different they sound to, for lack of a better term, proper English. Take the word trousers, for instance. In Sheng, which is a Kenyan Creole language, they're called longi because they're long. But even versions of English that are recognized as official variations or dialects still differ greatly from each other. Americans and Jamaicans would call the back of a car where you store your luggage the trunk. Britons, Australians, Canadians, and other Commonwealth countries would call it the boot. A subway in the UK is a tunnel under a road that allows pedestrians to cross safely. In the US, it's an underground train. You might think of these differences as minute, but when you take into account the dozens of different versions of English out there, a very intriguing parallel arises with another language from the past: Latin. Latin, too, used to be a lingua franca. Nowadays, it's all but dead, spoken only by a few clerics and scholars. At some point in history, it splintered into various different languages which became known as Romance languages. For example, Spanish, Italian, or French. There are some that theorize that the same thing might happen to English in the near or distant future, that all these Englishes we have today in different countries will continue to develop, so pidgins will turn into Creole languages, and Creole languages will turn into just languages, and English itself, as we know it today, will disappear, or become less and less important. It's an interesting theory, if nothing else. It makes sense that as English grows in popularity, countries, especially those with a strong sense of identity and tradition, will develop their own versions of the language, marked by the idiosyncrasies of their culture. Just think of the contribution of dialects such as Jamaican or South African English. In the past 50 years alone, they've added about 25,000 words to the English language. Most of these related to a local context that wouldn't have existed in English before the spread of colonialism. In terms of numbers, just those are enough for a brand new language. There are some flaws to this theory too, however. While it's true that Latin and English have a lot of similarities in terms of how they developed, or have developed throughout history, there is one big difference. We currently live in an era of globalization. Today, you can be in India and stream an American film or TV series in seconds. You can be in Nigeria and listen to British music. You can be in Brazil and read a novel from an Australian author. Just a few centuries ago, this was unthinkable. So what's the other way that English could go? According to some experts, there's the possibility that it could maintain its status as the world's global language, but with a few differences. Already today, most conversations in English occur between non-native speakers. While many of these might be fluent, the majority probably only have an intermediate understanding of the language, devoid of the nuances, colloquialisms, and complex collocations that native speakers employ in their interactions. This means that over time, English could turn into some sort of world speak, the official lingua franca for the entire world, but in a simplified form. Some scholars have even started trying to develop that version of English by selecting the most useful words in the English vocabulary for non-native speakers to learn. Robert McCrum has compiled a comprehensive list of 1,500 words, for example, a version of English that he calls Globish. And what about traditional native speaker English? It might continue to exist, but lose its popularity, as the previous theory suggests. There are many more theories about the future of the English language, of course. I've only focused on the two main ones because they clearly demonstrate our uncertainty when it comes to how this beautiful language will develop. English is in a unique, unprecedented position. No other language has achieved the same levels of popularity in human history, especially in terms of non-native speakers. So, as this is clearly uncharted territory, only time will be able to tell us what will happen.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.